Good morning, friends. Welcome to another edition of my podcast, Johnny W. Bread, on this hot and humid Wednesday, 1st of September, where the kids all go back to school. And I get a free moment, and I'd like to talk to you a little bit about the Glenn Beck Rally. I purposely call it the Glenn Beck Rally because, in fairness, I think it's a remarkable thing that Glenn Beck could pull this off. No matter what you think of Glenn Beck, his persona, his potential theatrics or antics, all the different things he does to be Glenn Beck. It's pretty amazing that he was able to create this Restore America Day, Restore Honor Day, and have as many as 300,000 people come. Couple of points about it. Many people have made comments, and some of it negatively, about the whole perhaps religious component of the rally, and if Glenn Beck created some type of Elmer Gantry type of evangelical revival type of thing by having this rally. In fairness, I don't necessarily agree with that. And quite honestly, there was no reason for anybody to have to walk in the aisle or drink communion amongst themselves, as far as making sure all religious folks at the rally, regardless of their religion, have some type of a kumbaya religious ceremony in an ecumenical fashion. That wasn't what was going on at all. In fairness, I really think what Beck was trying to do, and he's not the best spokesman for religion, and you don't have to really like him as a religious spokesman. You can disagree with his faith or whatever, but I think he was just trying to give religious people a place at the table to discuss how they feel about the current state of the union. And a lot of people could take it for different ways. I mean, I'm sure there were many people there who were evangelical Christians. There were many Tea Party folks there who were more into cultural conservative issues, but there were also people there for economic reasons. They just don't like the way the current state of affairs under Pelosi, Reid, and Obama are going. But they didn't try to make it political. They just wanted to have more of a revival to what they believe is the better days of yesterday, and how the country was more God and patriotism. If you don't want to go to this thing because maybe it makes you uncomfortable as a religious person, that's perfectly fine. I wouldn't tell people to do that. But as far as it being some type of a negative thing, no, I think ultimately it has a place, and I think it was still pretty amazing to see that many people go. And I think Beck's thing has an impact on the country, and I think Beck does right now. And how long that's going to last, how long the waves of these things go on, is open to debate. I don't think it's going to be permanent. But by and large, I think this is a positive thing, and people should really say, well, Glenn Beck has a voice at the table. He's getting people who believe in him, or giving them a voice at the table. And ultimately, I think, in a sense, if you believe in a lot of the things Glenn Beck does, this is good. And I have no problem with that. A second observation I made about the rally, and one I think is kind of unfair, even though I take an opposing side on it, is the idea of the whole Martin Luther King angle. Granted, Beck had Martin Luther King's niece at the rally speaking, and that's perfectly fine if she wants to speak and be part of that. And contrary to popular opinion, there were blacks who attended the rally. I don't know the percentage, but it's not like you can't be black and attend a Glenn Beck rally. And as a black person, you can certainly be conservative and disagree with a lot of the Obama administration in a lot of the civil rights legislation. However, I want to bring up a point regarding people in the civil rights movement and how they would think about Martin Luther King, and how I think it's important that we be fair to the memory of Martin Luther King. As a Christian, if I had a particular point of view that was in contrary to what some other Christian movement had, I might think the movement is dangerous or aberrant or not following the orthodox tenets of Christianity. And this movement then claimed to have a famous spokesman who was well known in evangelical circles. And they used a quote to make it seem like he was a proponent of theirs. I would be upset because I would be thinking to myself, they're manipulating their particular belief system by using this well-regarded man to be the spokesman for their particular beliefs, which are really contrary to what this particular man believed. What am I getting at? It's kind of vague. I'm not giving specific names. But the thing is, the people who are the closest people to Martin Luther King the people who walked with him, the people who are progressives who live today, they were clearly progressives. They were not conservatives. Glenn Beck has argued on his show time and time again, the enemy of America is progressivism. He's going back to Woodrow Wilson and the like. I actually agree with him, but that's not the point of this. The point is, the people who are closest to Martin Luther King, who believed in his vision, even though his speech, I Have a Dream speech, can be embraced by many people, and people who may be are conservatives may like that speech and say, well, King is on board with me because of this speech. That's just one part of Martin Luther King, one part of his belief system, one part of his persona, one part of the movement that he created that brought on the civil rights movement. I'm not going to get into all the specifics, but I would ask people who are conservatives to really look at and ask, from the progressive point of view, what they think of King, and really look at to see what King believed. I'm not trying to make a point to demonize King at all, but King was not conservative. I don't like that about King. I think King in many ways is not the hero policy-wise anyways that we make him out to be. I think King and those who follow him, and now the people who followed him for all these years, and his wife and I think many of the siblings kind of have gone along with the movement that is perpetuated by Jesse Jackson and, I don't know, maybe to a degree Al Sharpton, and those who are less famous and maybe less radical. Nevertheless, they still have the same paradigm about, you know, the government and doing things to help black people. The movement that people at the Glenn Beck Rally and many within the Republican Party or whatever, the conservative movement, disagree with. It's a fair disagreement. People can disagree. But Beck and a lot of the people within the movement who are Tea Party people want to quote Dr. King as one of them. He was not. Maybe he's not as, maybe he was less progressive as some people today. Maybe he's less progressive than Barack Obama. I don't know. He's not alive today. I don't know where he would be. But I doubt very much that he would be on the side of less government, less intervention. He was a social justice guy. The thing Beck says, if your church is preaching social justice, get out of it. King was a social justice. So in a sense, whether intentionally or unintentionally, Glenn Beck is doing a disservice because he's using a guy to promote his agenda that's unfair to the people who maybe admire King, who are liberal. I wouldn't like it if liberals were using a conservative to spout their message. I get a little annoyed when, you know, because liberals will have a big liberal pep rally, and then they'll say, you know, they'll quote Ronald Reagan a couple of times. Hello, what are you doing? Reagan would be turning over in his grave if you did that. Well, in fairness, don't be using Martin Luther King to promote a conservative agenda when he was clearly a progressive. Especially if you think the progressive movement is evil. Then why are you taking, you know, King to promote something against what he really believed in? Likewise, in Christian groups, they'll have a movement about dispensationalism, which is a movement contrary to what, you know, I believe is a conservative Reform Christian, and they'll make a point that by a conservative Reform guy that seems to argue in behalf of dispensationalism, when a guy such as Arthur Pink, who actually wrote something against dispensationalism late in his life, and he wanted all his former dispensational writings burned. Now some dispensationalists use Pink to promote their point of view, which I think is dishonoring to Pink. But they use it because Pink is well known, and maybe Pink is good, and maybe some conservatives will see the name Pink, and they might create cause for them to move over to the dispensational camp. Anyways, I'm going off on a rambling. But that's the point I'm making. Let's be honest about things, and let's be fair for both sides. That's all for today. So long for now.